So, if you saw the last workshop I dropped on here, you already know the deal. We're doing it again. And if you didn't know, that's all good because this one stands on its own. I recently had the opportunity to speak with another group of executive business owners and basically walk them through the entire playbook of how we think about content marketing, specifically how to use YouTube to actually bring in clients and not just views. We talk about why YouTube is the best platform for service-based businesses, and I show the actual data to back it up. And we break down what I call the YouTube content waterfall, which is the 5-step sequence that determines whether your videos actually generate leads or just sit there collecting dust. And we get into why chasing virality is one of the worst things you can do if you're trying to win clients. And there's also a bunch of live Q&A also throughout this one, which honestly is where some of the best stuff comes out. And everyone actually asked some real questions about their own businesses in their respective industries. So you're getting the thinking in real time, not some rehearsed keynote. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Kan. I run a YouTube agency called Social Wave, and we help service-based business owners grow their leads and revenue organically through content. And we've been doing this for over 6 years now, and we've actually helped generate over $24 million in revenue for our clients through content marketing. Enjoy the workshop. If you got value from the last one, this one goes even deeper. I'm going to teach you guys actually how to fish rather than fishing for you. Because if you understand how to think about this sort of stuff, you understand how these algorithms work, how these platforms work, you can fundamentally reverse engineer what's best for you. And because we've got such a diverse room, I think the best thing to do is rather than give you the tactics, there will be some tactics, but to actually give you the strategic thinking and understand exactly how to approach this as well. All right. Now, this is basically what the internet is. Now, I know that sounds kind of weird, but fundamentally speaking, this is where 90% of people spend their time online. So basically, if you aren't appearing on any of these platforms, then you fundamentally are missing out on the majority of the market as well, right? And that's just because distribution has actually fundamentally changed now. So what I mean by this is, if we think back, when radio was the main thing, and then the TV killed the radio. So when TV came along, radio lost its distribution, and TV became the main thing. And then when the TV got wiped out, it got wiped out by the internet. And that's when social media came along, right? And so now, instead of TV controlling distribution, it's actually these. And maybe in between there's a bit of cable and some of that sort of stuff. You got Netflix and things like that as well. But fundamentally speaking, these platforms command the most amount of attention of anyone's eyeballs in this day and age, right? So it's really critical that if you run a business or you run an organization and you want to get in front of more of your customers, you want to generate more leads, you want to generate more revenue, you want to build brand, these are the platforms you've got to be on. Okay, and I've tested pretty much all of these platforms. We're not wedded to one platform or another. I have right in the center there YouTube, because we're going to, in this workshop specifically, go through YouTube, because YouTube fundamentally, out of all the platforms that we've tested, is by far and away the best platform, and we'll get into that in a second, right? And so we've done the gold rush of the short form content, like your TikToks, your Instagrams. We've done paid ads. We've done Google SEO. We've done Google PPC, which is like paid ads on search, podcasts, LinkedIn, all that sort of stuff as well. And you'll start to see some stats in a second why I'm so bullish on YouTube as well. All right, so I'm going to assume everyone's ready to see how this works. But if anyone has any objections, you're welcome to walk out of the room now. All right. Here's just basically a bit of a list. Now, this was obviously similar to what I sent through. We're going to go through some of these frameworks. I'm not going to list out all of them because we're going to go through them one by one. But these are the frameworks. These are the ways of thinking. These are the first principles to think about when it comes to actually generating attention on these platforms, okay? So, let's kick it off. Attention is the new oil. Has anyone actually heard of this term before? Has anyone heard anyone say this before?
But data is the new oil?
Yep, very much so. Data and attention are interchangeable, but you're 100% correct. So, they say like in the last century, the biggest amount of wealth was generated from oil, right? You're drilling and digging oil, right? But you fast forward to today, the 4 out of the 5 biggest companies in the world are actually media companies, right? So we're talking about Meta, Google, Apple, Amazon, right? The biggest companies. These are trillion-dollar companies. Apple just hit trillions, but basically all these companies are now massive. So what makes them most valuable is that they command and they control the thing that's most finite and limited in this world now. And it's not oil. Oil is, but it's actually people's attention, right? Our time. So when we all consume content, whether it's on TV, whether it's on the web, we all have only 24 hours in a day. We allocate our units of time towards stuff like that. Extremely limited. So the one who wins attention wins everything, right? And so attention is the new oil. And there was a quote by Scott Galloway, who's a very, very much so respected scholar, is on a lot of podcasts. If you want to Google him, is phenomenal. He's basically said we've moved from an oil economy to an attention economy, right? So this is where things are shifting, where we're seeing wealth change. And the way wealth is built is through this instead. Okay. So the first framework I want to go through was, it's called 7-11-4. 7-11-4 is actually a research piece that was done by Google. Google did this actually in 2011, so it's about more than 13 years ago. But by that stage, people's buying process had changed, okay? So what it refers to is they actually measured and they got an understanding of now how much time someone had to spend with you in order for them to know, like, and trust you, and therefore for them to buy from you. And these are the actual metrics that they came up with. They basically said if someone spends 7 hours engaging with your content or spending time with you, right, that could be in person, online, 11 interactions with your brand, that could be seeing 11 videos or seeing a combination of videos, podcasts, audio, in person, right? At 4 different touch points. So it could be, like, again, in person, in different locations, digital and physical. That will result in someone actually know, liking, and trusting you, right? And so fundamentally, this entire premise is if you can hit these numbers, the faster you hit them, the more likely that you are going to actually generate revenue. Does anyone have any questions about this?
What do you mean by locations, touch points?
Locations and touch points, so that refers to, could be you feature on someone else's podcast. They might see you on a panel at a conference, see you on a podcast somewhere. You know, that sort of, you know, different location. Yeah, like say if someone only sees you on just your Instagram the whole time, not necessarily as powerful as seeing you in 4 different places, right? The whole premise is the more that people see you, the more time that they spend with you, the more likely they are to trust you. So I use the sort of mental exercise, you know, I did this last time. It's like, imagine you're hanging out with 2 friends. You got one friend who's always like freeloading off you, who's always borrowing money from you, who's always a pain in the ass, right? You always have to bail them out. You got a friend who's fantastic, always there for you, always helping you out, blah, blah, blah. That friend is the one that you want to spend that 7-11-4 with, right? Because fundamentally speaking, if you give value, and we'll get into that in a second, if your content and the stuff that you create is going to add value, right, and build that sort of relationship capital with them, the more time you spend with that person, the more likely they are to buy with you. It's the same thing as what you guys do in your general business development activities. You go to networking events, you spend time meeting up with your prospects, your clients, that sort of stuff. You are accumulating towards 7-11-4. You just may not know it, right? Or you don't have this framework that you're following. But you do know the more touch points you have, the more you nurture that relationship, the more likely that you are to do business together, right? And there are some tactics, for example, where I've got clients who, for example, they do a podcast and they don't care about building an audience on a podcast. What they care about is, I'll bring on someone who I want to work with, some prospect or account, get them to come on a podcast, chat to me for an hour. I'll take them out to lunch afterwards. We'll hang out for a bit. Then we'll have a few phone calls after, and before we know it, we're doing business, right? And it's like, it's the whole reciprocity thing. Like, the more time that you spend with someone, the more likely they're going to want to work with you. So if you can add value first and build up that goodwill, the more likely you're going to do business with them as well, okay? So if you sell a service or a product, basically the cornerstone of why people buy from you is fundamentally trust, right? I'm going to drive this point home. I have clients who are accountants, lawyers, financial planners, brokers, buyers agents, all sorts of walks of life, right? Sales experts. I wouldn't say any of them are number one in their industry. None of them are the best. They're not the number one whatever in their industry, right? And they themselves will tell you that. But the reason why people choose them over another competitor, even though that competitor might be better, is because they know, like, and trust them, right? So the other thing that sort of couples with this is, even though we're trying to build trust, the counterforce at the moment is that we're seeing that we're in a trust recession. So what is a trust recession? Trust recession just refers to the entire economy at the moment, or just, we're calling it consumers. People consume content, people who spend time on these platforms, extremely skeptical at the moment, at an all-time high, right? People are wising up, people are being burnt, they've been overpromised, you know, businesses have under-delivered. Basically, all of these kind of like gurus, your 21-year-old life coaches that you guys see, all these like Facebook ads that you see, there's way too much over-promising, under-delivering, basically. So people are realizing, they're like, I think COVID accelerated this because everyone was locked up and cooped up inside and had money, and they was all spending on online courses and all sorts of like programs and things like that. We're in a trust recession, which means it's extremely hard right now to actually build trust. So people used to think, oh, if I just put some videos out, put some content out, I'll be able to do business. You can't do that anymore, right? You actually have to know what you're doing. You got to know how to actually play that game as well, right? And this is why I'm going to talk about YouTube as one of the answers to this whole problem as well. Now, you can do Instagram, you can do other forms of social media content, right? But I just find it harder. Now, if you go back to the 7-11-4 framework, right? Instagram videos are generally 60 seconds. They're short form content, right? And so how many videos is going to require you to hit that 7 hours? You do the maths, about 420 videos. You have to do a lot of videos. You have to do a lot of content. It's a lot of effort. I don't know about you guys. I don't like hard. I like easy, right? So YouTube is by far the easiest, right, for a number of reasons, okay, which I'm going to get through in a sec. First thing, YouTube allows for in-depth, engaging content. So what does that mean, right? It basically means is that people's motivation on YouTube is fundamentally to actually be there for long-form content, right? When you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, maybe just a show of hands, just so I understand, who here uses Instagram? If I can just get an understanding. Oh, most of the room, cool. TikTok? One? YouTube? Yeah, most of the room as well. Google? YouTube is all used, yeah. Yep, LinkedIn? Most people use LinkedIn as well. Okay, no surprises here. All right, so YouTube allows for in-depth engaging content, right? So if you look at it this way, for you to hit that 7 hour mark, right, to watch a detailed video, you can actually get to 7 hours actually quite quickly with YouTube. You can probably do it in the space of 4, 5, 6, 7 videos versus 420, right, on these short form content, right? YouTube's also optimized for 11 interactions, right? And I'll show you in a second how these algorithms basically work, how they match, you know, essentially people's interests, your viewing behavior with what it is that you guys like to consume and then what people like to create. It's like a matchmaking system, right? YouTube can be shared across all platforms. People go to YouTube with high intent. YouTube actually has more users on its platform than any other platform out there, including LinkedIn, which I'll show you in a sec, right? And household income on YouTube is higher, and the reach of a video on YouTube is so much higher. Now, this is an important point. For those who use Instagram, do you ever notice, does anyone actually post on Instagram? I'm actually curious as well. Does anyone post? Photos? Okay. Videos? No? Photos? No one posts video? No? Okay. So when you post a Instagram video, you will find that most of the time, within about 24 to 48 hours, the video is already maxed out, it's capped out. It's only going to get the amount of views it's going to get. I've got clients on YouTube where people are still watching their videos 3 or 4 years down the track, right? And the most powerful thing about YouTube at the moment is the ability to basically film yourself. You're basically duplicating yourself and you're cloning yourself onto the web for as many people to watch on demand as possible about what it is that you have expertise in. So the long tail of YouTube is extremely long.
I think the question is, does quality of content have an impact or not? And what's your view of that?
So we're talking about production quality initially, because there's a difference between production quality and quality of, call it IP in the video, right?
You mean the content?
Yeah, this, you know, the actual...
what you say.
Yeah, the value of the video, right? So production quality actually is not that important anymore. So that's the short answer. The long answer is, it used to be, but then what we see is the pendulum always swings one way and it swings the other way. So what we're seeing right now, it's swinging back to low quality, not low quality, sorry, but lo-fi, you know, generally speaking. I'm going to show you an example of this gentleman, William Brown. This guy just sold his business for, I think, to a private equity firm for like somewhere like 8 or 9 figures, right? If you watch his videos, or actually if we look at his YouTube channel, he averages anywhere between 4,000 to 7,000 views of video. And this guy's generating about $400,000 a year from YouTube alone. And if his video style, if you actually watch it, is nothing more than him, it's going to play, standing in front of a whiteboard and talking for 30 minutes. And this is actually what we're seeing on YouTube at the moment. So an iPhone and a semi-decent microphone is enough on YouTube. The entire barrier is quite low. And one of the things I will show you in a second is you don't need huge numbers to generate some serious revenue. I've got clients right now, an accountant who's doing about, just hit 30,000 subscribers, took him 5 years to get there, but since year 1, he's been generating roughly about $300,000 worth of leads every single month on YouTube alone, right? And he was only generating anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 views every single video. So this is the big delta in YouTube at the moment, which is understanding that if you hit those 711-4 frameworks, you have got some serious opportunities, and most businesses haven't even clued in on this particular opportunity. Everyone's heading towards social media.
What's the next wave of innovation beyond the whiteboard presentation?
I don't really predict trends. I just look at trends and I just follow trends. So I don't have a crystal ball in regards to where it is. But what I generally have is a good litmus test or a sample size of where everything's heading. It's not changing anywhere from here at the moment. Like most of this, which is, call it, I'll show you one more example. I don't know if any of you guys follow a guy called Simon Squibb, UK dude as well. He literally does a butcher's paper or a whiteboard, and this is like his form of like teaching. So he'll get some guys on, it'll basically be like a podcast, and they'll just be like scribing while they're talking. There's barely any production quality to this stuff, right? Yes.
How many years or how much time does it take where you reach that tipping point of this level of viewership? Because you mentioned some of them have been 5 years on, this is what they're doing, which is great.
Yep.
That's 5 years from now if we all went home and started making videos.
Yep.
What's the lead time for that?
So 5 years was with that. That was actually client 0 for me. I had no idea what I was doing in year 1. So knowing what I know now and doing some of the stuff for new clients who jumped on board, within about 1 or 2 months, they're getting results. Very quick. And the reason why is we'll go through in a sec a lot of the steps in regards to like what's important and how to think about this, right? And then you understand, and then you'll be able to reverse engineer it. Yes. Yeah.
Can I ask, what do you think about live streaming services like Kick and Twitch? Are they taking eyeballs away from YouTube, or?
I think they complement YouTube. I think a lot of Twitch streamers are doing their own sort of like thing with Twitch being, I mean, there's always going to be platforms taking, you guys remember Clubhouse during COVID? No? It was like this big audio platform. Yeah, and it was just like, everyone was jumping on it and now it's fizzled out. So things come and go. YouTube's this big behemoth that hasn't moved. It sort of stayed the course through the whole time as well. So there are, Twitch is definitely like, call it flavor of the month at the moment. But again, yeah.
No, I'm not harping, but I mean, we talked about the production quality and I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm sure guys like this have like an editing team and like people who are, cutting and
Yep.
putting things together and you'll see a lot of them have multiple camera angles and stuff. So to me, that is, still that's a lot of work.
These guys, this guy, the one before I just showed you,
Yeah.
they haven't cut anything. You watch their videos,
Okay.
he's sipping a coffee in between.
Right, so just straight down the barrel.
Straight down the barrel. He asked his missus for a coffee in the middle of his video,
Yeah.
right? And the reason why he was retain attention is because the value, and this is the other quality,
Yeah.
the satisfaction of the video is extremely high. And the reason why is because we all think of YouTube, we all think of social media as entertainment content. Entertainment and educational content are two very different things, right? So when you're on YouTube for educational purposes, you don't care about production quality as much as your entertainment YouTubers. Like if Mr. Beast had low production quality, you'd be questioning it a little bit. You'd be a little bit worried. But if you're here to solve a problem, if you want to learn how to get rich online ASAP in 2025, you're going to sit through that 2.5-hour video if this guy's got something good to say. And there's a recipe to how you do these types of videos as well. Not saying you have to be these sort of grifters, but the idea is that production quality from that perspective doesn't matter. These guys, trust me, when you watch them, maybe Simon Squibber's the one as that last example is a little bit more production quality higher, but it's a nice to have. It's not a must have as well. This is US data, by the way, but the Australian data is very similar. $100,000 household income, 90% of YouTube has it. YouTube literally has the most amount of high value household incomes in terms of its platform. So the next one, which everyone perceives to be the best, is Instagram, only 58%. So you can see the delta there. You'll be seeing out at about 42% difference here, or sorry, 32%, basically. It's a huge difference. And even when you sort of go down the scale, right, sort of lower, YouTube maintains that across the board. Do you know how people say everyone has short attention spans? I don't think that's true. I think people have less patience for bad content. So basically, when you don't think it's good content, you're off to the next one. Whereas before, you used to sit down watching Channel 7, you're like, well, it's either 9 or 10, right? And you knew what was on because you had the TV guide in front of you.
I think that's where YouTube is really interesting. So think of a travel blog or a travel video on YouTube.
Yep.
If you turn something on, 10 tips how to get around Japan, you stay, but you go to the next one. And if you find the one you like, you'll stay there for 15, 20 minutes and watch it. It's not about the volume of time. It's the old story. Content is king.
Here's just another stat. YouTube's the new TV. It's taken over Netflix. There's more people on YouTube on TVs at home than Netflix. Here's another stat. Which social media platforms are most popular? And YouTube's right up the top, and it's already starting to break off. And Facebook's actually had a longer runway than YouTube as well. Yeah, it's undeniable. And the reason why is because YouTube has built the perfect ecosystem. YouTube basically, we'll get in a sec, is maybe just this one I'll get into a sec, but average time spent per day on social media platforms, YouTube, 36 minutes, right? And Netflix, which is investing hundreds of millions of dollars into their studios and their big productions, YouTube is actually beating that. And YouTube is not paying a cent for production quality, right? Because it's relying on creators. So these are just some of my clients. When you get the slides, you guys can have a look and have a poke around. But these are just some of the numbers. 80 to 90 leads a month for an accountant. Buyer's agent's doing about 140, 180 leads. He's only got 4,000 subscribers. We had a mortgage broker who, after only 4 videos, had to stop because he couldn't take on any more work. And then this particular client just hit 1 million, actually, and they generate anywhere between 15 to 18,000 leads a month on YouTube. right? Average video does about 300 to 800,000 views, right? Big TAM, big total addressable market. They're in the education space and it's global. So every business has got slightly different TAMs essentially, right? Now, to show you the opposite, short form content, this lady, well, this influencer, 1.6 million followers, you're like, wow, massive followership. She went to VidCon, which was the world's biggest creator summit, call it that. It's where everyone goes to meet their favorite influencers, that sort of stuff. She did a meet and greet, no one turned up. Yes, she did. No one turned up. She's a TikToker. So this goes to show you right now that views and followers is not what gets you results. It's attention, eyeballs, and time spent on your content. The problem with TikTok, if you do, for those who use TikTok, is, I don't know if you guys have this, you don't even remember the name of the creators you follow and you see. Yeah? I see this with my clients who do well on TikTok. They can tell the difference between a TikTok follower and a YouTube follower. YouTube follower walk up to them, they go, oh, I know your name, blah, 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 I'll say this. TikTok follower go, oh, aren't you the guy who does, right? Because that 7-Eleven 4 hasn't been built. There's a huge difference, right? So the job of what you guys need to do when it comes to content is fundamentally this. This is a funnel, right? You need to find your exact audience. You want to solve a problem. You want to then get discovered on YouTube. I'm going to show you all of this in a sec. You want to then build that relationship with them and then get them to spend enough time with you so they become a paying customer. That's fundamentally the key steps that you got to take in order for this to work. So what you're fundamentally doing is this is no different to the way that you present at a conference, right? You go to a conference, 200, 300 people, workshop, 15, 20 people. You're just doing this at scale, right? You're just copying yourself, pasting yourself on the internet, and then everyone's going to come and find you essentially, and that's how it does it. So before I get into the tactics, I want to talk about sea of sameness, right? And this is the question sort of related to credibility, branding, that sort of stuff, right? This will answer it. So sea of sameness, what is it? So I like to use this example. It's like everyone has a competitor. SpaceX has a competitor. It's Virgin Galactic. So if Elon has a competitor, you probably have a competitor as well, right? So you don't want to compete on price because it's a race to the bottom. And as they say, there's no reward for the second cheapest, right, when it comes to this. So in such a case, right, the bigger differentiator should be your personal brand, right? So each of you fundamentally has a personal brand. You all have a reputation, right? You have it offline, but then you also have one online as well. And the way that your personal brand is built online is different to how you build it offline as well, right? Now I'm going to show you 3 examples of people who've used personal brand to build multi-million, multi-billion-dollar businesses. Conor McGregor, as probably most of us know, UFC fighter, launched a whiskey brand called Proper Number 12. He sold and exited for $600 million with his personal brand. Yeah. The Rock, he's got a tequila brand, which is also not good tequila, $3.5 billion. That's what it's valued at. And it's not great, right? And the last one is, for the ladies, Kylie Cosmetics is worth $1.2 billion. And I wouldn't say it's the best cosmetic brand out there as well. There's ones that have been around for centuries, essentially, right? But it's all off the back of personal brands. Now, I'm not saying you guys go launch a whiskey brand or a tequila brand or that sort of stuff, but you can do a smaller version of that and build an empire yourself or have the impact that you basically want through your personal brands as well, right? And if you have a look at sort of founders versus their company brands, you look at their followership, you look at like the attention that they garner, really different. Tesla versus Elon, Gary Vee versus VaynerMedia, Steve Jobs versus Apple, or Tim Cook versus Apple, right? Phil Knight versus Nike. You will find that these guys have a lot, as long as they built a personal brand, a massive delta between more followers on personal brands versus company brands. So we're seeing a real shift towards personal brands, and that sort of plays into like the modern day buying process, okay? So what I want you guys to sort of understand is most businesses focus on this bit, the 3% that are in a active buying cycle at the moment, yeah? That's only what the market is currently looking for. So I use the very simple example. If I'm looking to buy a fridge or refrigerator, only 3% of people right now are looking for a fridge, right? And so most people, they're all fighting the same, fishing out of the same pond, so to speak. But I call this the winning zone. The winning zone is actually here. This is the sort of 66, 67% who fundamentally are somewhat interested, or they're open to it, or they're working their way towards it. So they're going from, oh, I need potentially a refrigerator, or I'm thinking about it somewhere down the track, that you win the attention there. So another example is, use my accounting client as an example. He might be doing content on tax planning, on asset protection, all the sort of frequently asked questions, pain points. And people are consuming his content. Now, most of them are not looking for an accountant. But people watch it because they're interested in learning, but they're quite happy with their accountant. Come end of financial year, accounting cocks up, they're not happy with it. What do you think they do? They think of this guy first. They go to him. And it's because he's planted the seed much earlier in that process, right? And he's built up that relationship. He's done the 7-11 for to get to a point where when that person moves from up here down to here, he's already taken the market share. And so where most businesses don't understand is that they don't care about this. They're just trying to scrape down the bottom of the barrel like everyone else is.
I'd like to challenge that, but then challenge myself because I've done this from a taxation point of view to learn about taxation.
Yes.
And then I've gone to speak to my accountant and ask some questions, and he's answered them on cue. So it builds the trust that I've got the right accountant.
Yes.
I've done that in other areas where I've asked doctors similar questions, and they go, oh, just borrow it for a moment, and they're on the YouTube, or they're actually on Google, or they're on some doctor portal trying to find out the question I'm asking.
Yep.
I lose faith. So therefore, I want to now shop for a new doctor.
Correct.
So it
double-edged
becomes a
sword.
very interesting tool to the way in which it influences your buying patterns.
Definitely. I mean, you're not going to capture everyone. I mean, if you could, fantastic. But for the most part, even if you capture a small percentage of that, for most businesses, it's a massive, massive opportunity as well. So for something like the doctor example or the accountant example, yes, you're definitely going to get cases like that. That particular client, he said he's received so much feedback from other accounting partners that their staff have found his videos and then told them about it, and then they've gone and fixed up and improved their accounting firm. It happens. It's fine, right? But the thing is like if you're playing the long tail, you're not worried about sort of tomorrow. You're just going long tail, impact, getting awareness, eyeballs. At some stage, a percentage of those are going to come and trickle down to the bottom of that funnel, and they're going to work with you essentially. You don't need everyone to, but some of them will do what Cam just mentioned as well. So let's get into YouTube, because I know this is where all the questions have been coming. So let's do it. I'm going to teach you guys about how to understand YouTube's algorithm. Okay?
Can we hack it?
You can't hack it. Yeah, you can't hack it, and I'll show you why. Right? Well, maybe the answer to that is you can hack it for a short period of time, but they'll always close the loophole. Because I come from an SEO background, so people used to do all these hacks, they used to do all these like black hat stuff, all these sort of ways to game the algorithm to get onto the first page of Google. And I always say, you're trying to bet against literally the top 5 biggest companies in the world. So YouTube has one goal, okay? And now remember this, because everything you do has to align with this, all right? YouTube's one primary goal is to keep people on the YouTube platform so that YouTube can make money by getting people to watch ads and profit from it. So then the question is, what does it actually mean for you guys? Like, how does it basically work, right? So this is how YouTube sees it. They go, I'm going to show viewers content they'll love, and ideally I show them good quality content, right? If we talk about quality, keep them watching for longer, and that'll make them binge watch because they'll watch more videos, and because they watch more videos, they're going to watch more ads. And if they watch more ads, YouTube makes more money, right? So then the delta here, or the opportunity here, is how does YouTube decide what to show people to get them to watch for as long as possible? And the question is, how does YouTube measure that? Okay, so in essence, they've actually built the most sophisticated system in the world to understand what people want, identify what they're interested in, and then match viewers with the content. And so if you guys all look at your own YouTube feeds, if I got you all to pull up your YouTube feeds right now, you'd all have vastly different recommendations on your homepage. Because what it does is it just measures every single action, every click, every amount of time that you spend on a video on YouTube, and it uses that data to figure out how to curate an even better feed for you over time. So the more data you give to it, the better it becomes, to a point where it gets scarily accurate that it knows what to give you, right? And then before you know it, you spent 3 hours on YouTube and you didn't even realize.
Can you confuse it?
Oh, well, yeah, if you wanted to deliberately, yeah. So I've confused mine because my 2-year-old toddler watches Miss Rachel and Wiggles. And so my feed's a mix of kid stuff and entrepreneurial stuff, right? So you can confuse it. That's why I actually don't like, I said, give him an account, give him his own account, because he has his own curated feed, which is YouTube Kids at the moment. So every account ideally should be separate, right? So we'll talk about quality and quantity, or quality over quantity in a second. Does anyone have ever heard of Kevin Kelly? So this guy was the founder of Wire magazine, very well-known guy, kind of call it like a bit of futurist, like he kind of knows, he sees trends, you know, questions around sort of where things are heading. He wrote a piece called 1,000 True Fans. So if you guys maybe want to jot this down, this is something really worth reading. He basically says, for every business, you only need 1,000 true fans. So we define a true fan as not a casual viewer or a customer. You buy your They buy your products or your services and then recommend you to others. This kind of sounds like your mother. And it's because someone who spent as much time with you as possible, again, that relationship capital, your best mate, your parents, your family, your brother, your sister, right, your partner, that's what a true fan is. Your job is just to do this at scale, right? And he talks about some examples. He talks about some really well-known rock bands that you barely hear of all the time, but every time they put on a concert, they fill up the joint, right? And brands and music groups, anyone who's a creator, for example, anyone who's got some value that they share to the world, whether it's entertainment or education, they only need 1,000 true fans to make a living. So that he uses this theory, right? He talks about, and obviously numbers are different to everyone, but just the maths. If you got 100 fans to pay you $100, you'd be making, that maths is actually not right. But let's just say, for example, you've got $100 per fan, right, with 1,000, 100K a year in terms of your making, right? These are not huge numbers. Everyone thinks you need like millions and millions of subscribers and followers and that sort of stuff. You don't, right? If they spend $1,000 with you, you'd be making $1 million a year. Or if you had 10,000 fans spending $100, you'd be making $1 million a year as well. So if you're in high ticket services, if you're selling like 10, 15, 20, 100, big contractor values, you need even fewer fans. You don't even need 1,000, right? So how does this relate to quality and quantity, right? It's the point that I wanted to make, which is virality does not equal to customers. And we sort of jumped the gun a little bit earlier, where I showed you, I said, I've got some guys I can show you who are doing only a few thousand views. I've got clients who are doing a few hundred views per video, and they're generating a huge amount of pipeline. You don't need to go viral, right, to generate customers. And in fact, the opposite is true. If you go for virality, you generally don't generate customers. I've got clients, which I think I've got an example in a second, where he wanted to go viral because he just didn't understand it. I was like arguing. I was like, why do you want to go viral? I said, you're not going to get leads out of it. He's like, because if you go viral, maybe a portion of those people are customers. He had a video that did 88,000 views, which was his biggest video at the time, got nothing out of it, 0 leads out of it, essentially. So we're not in the game of like going viral. And more specifically, it's like the more specific the content, right, the more likely you're going to be able to generate dream customers and true fans, fundamentally. Okay? So I like to use the analogy, just to ram that point home, is we're not here to do megaphone content. We're not here to blast it out to the masses. The idea is to do dog whistle content. So at a certain frequency that only resonates with your target audience. So don't worry about trying to emulate or copy someone who doesn't have your target audience, you're not interested in it. And that's why a lot of people follow like these big creators and stuff. And they try to be the next Mr. Beast or the next Casey Neistat or next creator, whatever, and they don't get the same results because their content doesn't resonate the same way with their audience versus others, right? You can't imitate. So again, megaphone. Designed to get as many people as possible, dog whistles to develop messaging or content that only resonates deeply with your specific audience. So this is that client example, literally 4 videos, too many leads, could barely keep up, right? Very specific. He talks about housing crisis, rental crisis. He's in property, right? Anything property related, he's generating leads off of. This is that one that went viral, 88,000 views, right? Didn't get a single lead. So then, I think the question everyone wants to ask is, how do you create content that takes someone from cold to sold, right? And this is where we get really tactical, right? This is probably where everyone busts out their pens and their laptops. Basically, to win at YouTube, and questions around credibility and all that sort of stuff and how this all comes into play, I'm breaking it down into sort of like what I call a YouTube content waterfall. This is fundamentally the stuff that no one teaches on YouTube or no one understands on YouTube, right? And I learned this framework off of several strategists, but the most well-known guy was actually a guy called Paddy Galloway. And Paddy basically is, if you look him up on X or Twitter, or you look him up on YouTube, he's considered the top YouTube strategist in the world. So his clients are Red Bull, Philadelphia Eagles, who just won the Super Bowl, Mr. Beast, Blowout Professor, all these big creators. He's in the entertainment space, right? But he understands the YouTube algorithm extremely well and what works to get results. So I'm applying this principle in the form of how do you now do this for your business or your personal brand, right? So this is actually deliberately in order as well, which is topics, packaging, which refers to thumbnails and titles, the way you do your hooks and your scripts, the way you do your presentation or your delivery, and then your production quality, fundamentally, okay? I'm gonna go through each one. So let's talk about topic selection. Your job, if you wanted to actually get results from YouTube, is that when I basically learnt this, it sort of fundamentally changed how I approached it. What I used to do was I used to talk to a client and go, what do you want to talk about? Like, what kind of topics are we going to cover? And they used to tell you only the stuff that they wanted to talk about. But the point is to find the topics that your target audience and your customers are interested in, right? So the job is actually to figure out what topics to do and pick topics your audience wants to know, not the other way around. And I know that sounds really silly and really obvious, but most people do not do that as well, okay? So the analogy I give is just trying to, like, imagine if you want to convince a bunch of golfers how great footy is, right? They're not interested, they're golfers, they're only interested in golfers. Of course there's golfers who are interested in footy, but for the most part, let's just assume that they're not interested. There is no way in hell, no matter how great your presentation is, how amazing it was, there is no way in chance they're going to pay attention. They're just not interested, right? Right? So in a real life setting, you get that signal, it's probably not of interest, people yawn, people walk out, you know, and in the version of like your content, when you get content out, if you don't choose the right topic, you don't get views, you don't get subscribers, you don't get any engagement, you don't get any comments, you have no interest in your videos whatsoever, right? So there's this book, I don't know if anyone's seen this book, by Austin Kleon, it's called Steal Like an Artist, right? And this is the whole thesis around coming up with topics. And it's this idea that nothing is original, right? Everything's remixed. So the idea is that you shouldn't pull something out of your ass and believe that that's the most unique thing you've got to talk about. It's that there's probably someone else out there who's already tested that topic, and your job is then to find that topic and go, can I do a better job? We call it the skyscraper technique. Instead of tearing someone else's building down, build a taller building. Just make it more magnificent and beautiful than theirs, right? And so you let them do the hard work of finding these topics and testing these topics, but then we will then take the best of the best and then be able to generate views off the back of them. So in other words, you want to watch popular videos in your niche or competitors and identify recurring topics or trends. So I will actually flick over now. And let's just use this guy as an example. Now, for those at the back, I might zoom in a little bit. Do you guys see these little multipliers here?
Yeah.
So there is a tool that you can actually purchase and download. It doesn't cost much, it's a subscription. It's called 1 of 10. So 1 of 10 is basically a tool that essentially measures the performance of each video on a YouTube channel against the average performance. So take, for example, this video did 4.3 times better than the average performance of a video on that channel. It's an outlier. So statistically, from an outlier perspective, anything that does better than the, call it median, gets measured in this way, right? So your job essentially is to go through and to find winning topics and find topics is to firstly identify, well, who has your audience? Like if you're in sales, for example, go find a sales coach on YouTube. Go find a sales expert on YouTube. The next thing you do is you go on their channel, you go to their videos tab, and then you go here, and then you go and look at what their outlier content is. And you can actually sort it by descending to ascending, as meaning biggest outlier to smallest. This one got 8.4x, this got 7.7x, 6.2x. And what you fundamentally do is you take that and you go, can I take that topic and then improve on it? So grab and twist. Can I take that topic and go, you know what, I can do a better job than this guy. You watch the content, you're like, you know, it was good content, but I can do better, right? And then that, right, gets translated into, obviously, if you do it right, more views, better performance, because these topics are already proven that the actual market wants to see. They're actually very much so interested in it. For example, this video, 4.6x, what it's telling you is it says that this video got 4.6 times more views than like the average video on that channel. Yeah. So you're looking at topics that are, like, for example, if you got a channel that has 1 million subscribers, right? You're not going to be able to tell whether or not that's a okay performance, a bad performance, or a good performance, right? It's all relative to how the performance is on the channel. So for this tool basically helps to, you know, sort of skip that process and allow you to basically just find these topics easily. So if you don't know the channels, the starting point is start to type in some keywords, essentially. So for example, this guy, Andy Elliott, I don't know who he is, but let's just take for example. And then you hit, you organize it. This one, 25 minutes of sales training that will explode your business 2025. 12x multiplier. So it did 12 times better than the average performance on his channel.
What would be a big multiplier?
The biggest I've ever seen is about 600. Yeah, yeah. So you can get some monstrous outliers, but they're usually because they're like early channels, you know, 1,000 subscribers, you know, and then they just hit the jackpot with the right topic. So where it might get a little bit confusing for you guys is go, well, why does this have 61,000 views, but this has 51,000 views, but this one has a 9x multiplier and this has a 12x multiplier. It's because it measures the performance at that point in time. Because you had a smaller channel maybe further along versus now. So it's actually frighteningly like accurate. Because you could misattribute and go, I'll sort it by most popular, and that's the outlier videos. It's not true, because the most popular might be just like the standard performance, right, at the time. Because if he has 1 million views now, he gets a million subscribers now, he's got 1 million views, right? That might be just the norm versus when he had only 10,000 subscribers and got 1 million views 2 years ago, right? I'm going a little bit in the weeds here, but it's just to understand that the number, go off of the number of the multiplier, don't go off the number of the view count or anything else, right? But the goal of this particular exercise, when coming up with like topic ideas, is to help you to prune and identify topics that you can start with on YouTube, which takes out the guesswork. Because I spent 3 or 4 years not knowing this, and I was just picking random topics out of the air. And then whenever we post it, we'd be like, why is the video only getting like 50 views, 100 views? Like, why is it not performing? It's because we didn't fundamentally understand how to actually find winning topics, right? That's why I said steal like an artist. You don't want to take it and just plagiarize it, because it's not going to work, because you're not Andy Elliott, right? So YouTube is multidimensional in the sense that your audience will know, right? Like if your audience watches you and Andy Elliott, they're going to be like, you're copying Andy Elliott. Like, what are you doing, right? So, but the premise of the topic, which is the 25 minutes of sales training that will explode your business, you could take that. You could call it 37 minutes, right, in 2026, right? So you adapt it. But then what you teach inside of it, and you can deconstruct it, but I'm just doing it from a simple standpoint, is you could literally do your own version of like teaching that. So that's the thing, we have to detach ourselves when defining success of a video based on the most amount of views. And I think Alex Hormozi is a very well-known entrepreneur. I'm sure some people know who he is. He actually said this thing, he's like, YouTube's now so good at going ultra niche and finding your exact content and your audience that you have to be okay when you release a video, you get 14 views. Because maybe that's the only 14 people in the world that are interested in TIG welding. Maybe just another illustration here of just, of this particular one. Like I said, just because a video has a high view count doesn't mean it's actually a good video, right? So these are 3 very similar videos, right? And I would say that most people would say this is the best video out of the 3 because it's got 234,000 views, right? Would you guys agree? Just if you look at it on face value, if I didn't tell you what I just told you, you'd be like, that's the best performing one, right? But if you're talking about an outlier, he's got 811,000 subscribers, he only got 243,000 views. He has 30,000 subscribers, 22,000 views. He has 30,000 subscribers, he got 102,000 views. Do we see the difference there? Yeah, that's how you find outliers, right? Because you're not measuring it based on you're not always, because otherwise everyone's just gonna look at the most popular videos and just try and copy it. What you're looking at is ideally you find smaller channels, right, of your competitors, maybe not an Andy Elliott who has 1 million subscribers, and go, who has like maybe 10 to 20,000 subscribers, who does YouTube very well, but then has outliers like this. All right, and that's how you find your winning topics, basically, right? So that's the outlier. All right, let's talk about packaging. So packaging, in the traditional sense, is defined as materials, design, processes they use to enclose, protect, and present a product for storage, distribution, sale, and use, right? Very Oxford Dictionary type environment. For YouTube, packaging is just title and thumbnail, right? It's used to present a video, aka your product. So the way I would say it is like, imagine if you're in like Woolies or Coles and you're sort of walking through and then you're trying to decide which packet of chips that you want to buy, you see salt and vinegar. You grab that one, that pink packet, you're like, cool, salt and vinegar. Your expectation when you grab that and you open it and you put the first chip in your mouth is it's going to taste like salt and vinegar. But if it doesn't taste like salt and vinegar, you're gonna be fucking pissed, right? So a lot of people make the mistake where their packaging promises something, and then when someone clicks on the video, it doesn't fulfill the promise, right? So there's different ways to like fuck that up, basically, which is you see a lot of like lifestyle vloggers, they do this, they're like, oh, welcome back to my channel, today was a hot day and I got sunburnt. And you're like, get to the fucking point. Like I clicked on this video, there was a reason, I wanna get value out of it, I wanna be entertained, right? So you have very little patience for that sort of stuff, right? And the idea behind that is your packaging is what you do in terms of creating expectations in your video, right? So once you've found out the topic and once you packaged it up, those things, all those things together essentially create expectation, right? So when you're someone who's like, I want to learn sales training, and you see something like 25 minutes of sales training that will blow up your business, you better be damn sure that by the end of the video you watch, it's going to blow up your damn business, right? And so if you get into it and then someone's like, plug in their free program or blah, 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 and they're just not adding any value, the first thing you need to do is you're going to jump off the video. So we want to immediately, within a short period of time, get to the point, right? So first impressions are key. A lot of this stuff is just sort of, if you got someone who does design, who's like consistent in design, gives you a competitive edge, creates an expectation. In other words, when you look at your homepage on YouTube, you want to be able to kind of stick out, right? Like you want to be able to avoid that sea of sameness. You want to be able to be found.
One thing worse than wasting your time is wasting someone else's time.
Correct, exactly. So if you look at my feed, you can probably, at a glance, there is probably a thumbnail or a title that sticks out to you. And you guys probably know all my viewing habits now as well, right? Like I see that one stick out to me, but if you keep going down, that one sticks out to me, that one does too. So you can see like you've kind of got to think about packaging just like a supermarket aisle. It's like how do you create packaging that fundamentally sticks out? And this is really important because you could get the topic right, but if your packaging is bad, no one's going to click on your video. So if no one clicks on your video, no one's going to watch your video. If no one watches your video, then you're not going to get any views, right? So there's sort of like that's why it's a waterfall. It's really reliant on you actually getting all of these right in this sequence as well. YouTube has what I call confounding variables. It's like the English language. There's always exceptions to the rule, right? Like YouTube, you always say like, this is best practice, but then someone's doing something that doesn't follow best practice and it works. It happens. It's just that he probably, instead of getting, call it 3 million subscribers, he probably could have got 10 if he played the thumbnail game right. His opportunity, he lost that. But you'd be happy with 3 mil, like put it that way.
No.
He doesn't realize. But the point is that, see, this goes back to the point of production quality. This guy probably has fundamentally the worst production quality because he's got the production quality of my high school teacher, right? With overhead projectors and, I think he learned how to use a switcher to switch between 2 cameras, like sort of halfway through COVID. And that was the extent of his production quality. But the point is that even someone like him, if he chose topic right or idea right, you can still kill it on YouTube, right? So your job when it comes to topic, when you're looking for topic, you're looking for the John Campbells of your industry. You're like, how the fuck is this guy getting 300,000 views with a shitty packaging and, the video is like bad production quality? You're like, I can do way better than this. Like you want to get that reaction because you're onto something. You're like, so maybe just to show you the order again, you're going to show up, your video's going to show up on the homepage, right? People are going to see your video and your packaging is getting the clicks. If you don't get the clicks, none of this happens. People don't watch the video, people don't watch more of your videos, people don't become a fan, people don't buy from you. It's all downstream from this. So great packaging principles. Title and thumbnail are one package. I see this mistake a lot. People repeat their title in their thumbnail. They're like, 25 minutes of business advice, and then they put it in their thumbnail, 25 minutes of business advice. You should see as one thing. It's not like you don't buy a salt and vinegar packet of chips and it goes salt and vinegar, and then salt and vinegar. Well, sometimes it does, but like, you want to make sure that they complement each other, right? So promise principle is what I mentioned, which is, hey, like you're creating you're delivering on a promise, right? You're creating an expectation by clicking on my video, right? I need to meet that promise, right? Shouldn't be clickbait. So a lot of people ask me, they're like, what is clickbait? I said, clickbait is only when you under-deliver, right, and over-promise. Because if your title or your thumbnail looks really outrageous, like it's like how I took a business from $0 to $10 million in 1 month, but then you actually show them and they get the value, it's not clickbait. You actually just satisfy them, right? So just be careful of that. Thumbnail should pass that fleeting test, which is like if you're scrolling through, does it pop out, right? Does the pattern interrupt? The other one that people don't realize is it needs to fit within a character limit. So what happens is a lot of people write the most important words at the end. Dr. John Campbell's not, he actually does that well. But do you see how it's sort of 3 dots and you see you see where it truncates? A lot of people, they don't realize that you can actually put in more characters, but then you've got the missing keyword in there that probably makes a difference between more clicks and less clicks as well, right? And then thumbnail should be simple. Maybe as an example again. There are really simple ones like this, and then there are really outrageous ones like this one, right? Or these ones are not good because the font's too small and you can barely see it unless you're into the EPO and you can tell what logos there are, right? So you can see a lot of these ones, the ones that you see on your homepage are generally outliers already. They're already ones that are doing quite well, actually. You'll very rarely see a video that does like not great and then showing up on your home feed. Because why would YouTube want to send you a crappy video and then you watch 30 seconds of it and then bounce, right? So they'll always serve you up the best content that they feel that people are watching as well. All right. So let's say you pick the right topic. Let's say you get your packaging right. The next thing is to talk about your hooks or the way you do your scripts. So the hook is basically the opening 30 seconds of your video. That's what it is. It's just, this is the most crucial 30 seconds of your video. You should be spending 80% of your time figuring out how to say it, what to say in the first 30 seconds. Because if you don't do it right, like I said, you're the time wasters, they're telling, well, welcome back to my channel, and they're just wasting time. People are fundamentally saying this sort of stuff. Saying, is this what I've clicked for? Does this look professional? Should I keep watching? Are they wasting my time? Do they know what they're talking about? Is this relevant to me? Where is this going? What's in it for me? Should I invest more? Now, the credibility question is, this is where it comes in. And I always say it's like, as part of your opening 30 seconds, you should find a way to establish credibility. And usually you want to show, don't tell. Because there's a lot of younger 21-year-old life coaches who fundamentally just say that they've done these things, and they're just outright lying. And the market will believe them, because the sophistication of the market's not there, but people are getting wiser. We're in a trust recession at the moment. So people are actually wising up and they're like, I'm not sure if I should trust you or not. So the example that I give is, imagine you have the two videos. There's two videos, same topic, same packaging, same thing. One of them's Warren Buffett, and the other one's a school teacher. And the topic is basically about wealth building. Who are you going to believe more? You're going to believe Warren because he's got the credibility. You know who he is. You know what track record that he's basically got. So the question is, how do you show that, right? So usually what you see is a lot of these guys tend to have, sometimes it's like what's in the background of their set. They've got awards, plaques, they've got certain things that, you can't replicate. Or it could be like they've got photos, they've got like, they're inside an office, a monster-sized office. They run a big running company. So oftentimes it's about showing this stuff. Sometimes you want awards, right? You got awards sitting in the background. You might sort of make a claim. You're like, I've helped this and this and do that. And you might have a contract, or you might have something that you can sort of prove and show. Now, there are people who go to the extent of like faking that stuff, yes, but it's really hard. So the market's gotten to a stage of sophistication where they now actually want to see this stuff at the start of the video. So if you're a sales expert, but you can say, look, we've generated over $900 million worth of sales for a company, and you could show them a screenshot of literally that, if you can. That's the ideal scenario.
Can you achieve the hook successfully through imagery and graphics without voice in that first 15 seconds?
You can. You definitely can. There's no one version of a best hook. There's thousands of different hooks, really. As long as you understand the principles around a hook, which is these are the types of questions you want to answer when someone actually watches your video and clicks on it initially. Yeah. So there's nothing that comes to mind necessarily with no voice, but
I'm thinking travel.
Yep.
If you've got some stunning imagery in that first 10 seconds, and what I call the wow factor, before anyone opens their mouth. Or here's a financial guru that says in the first 10 seconds, I'm going to teach you how to make $1 million in 10 days. But he doesn't say that. Can you substitute the voice and the face or the whatever with imagery and graphics, essentially?
You can, yeah. As long as it answers those questions. Yeah. So for more entertainment content like travel and stuff, it's probably less of these questions. Some of those questions apply, like, are you going to waste my time, blah, blah, blah. But for educational content, which is kind of what we're focused on, people are there with the intent of like learning something. So you kind of, you want to get to the point fairly quickly. So this guy, again, Alex Hormozi, he has a concept called time to value, right? You want to respect the time of the viewer, and you want to give them value as fast as possible. In other words, don't faff about, just get straight to the point, right? People used to go, oh, you need these long-winded like build-ups, you got to agitate the problem, like copywriters used to do this, like problem, agitate, solve. You just get to the point. Like if the video says 25 minutes of, sales advice that's going to change your business, the first thing you say is, in this video, I'm going to teach you 6 different things that's in the next 25 minutes going to change your business when it comes to sales. Like literally, you just want to reaffirm that they've clicked in the right place. Like it's as simple as that. But most people don't do this for some reason as well. So there's this concept of stakes, right? I haven't spoken about this before, but a lot of YouTubers talk about this. It's like they talk about stakes, which is it refers to like what are the stakes of like watching these videos? Like what's the reason why the viewer should care about what you're saying or showing, right? So the example is, for example, if you don't watch this, you could be missing out on $100,000 worth of additional revenue you could generate for your business tomorrow. That's the stake. So you want to establish the stake quite early as well, because what you want to do is essentially what they call opening up a curiosity loop or a curiosity gap. So the brain, the human brain, when you watch content and you think about your favorite TV shows, they do the same. It's like, why do they leave you on a cliffhanger at the end of each episode? It's because they create an open loop. You got to stick around, you got to watch the next one, and then the next one, and the next one as well. YouTube does the same thing, but instead of on a per episode basis, you're creating little open loops within the video. So what your hook does, for example, is it creates that open loop in the first 30 seconds. It's like, if you don't watch this, right, you're missing out on stuff. There's FOMO, or there's fear, or there's, you could gain something by watching this as well, right? There's something that you desire. Maybe the travel ones, like, the 10 best places to visit in Kyoto. You could literally say, like, if you don't watch this, especially number 10, the best one, and it's one that no one talks about, no one knows about, you're missing out, right? Open loop, open loop, open loop. And always have an open loop through your whole video, because that's what gets the people watching. And so the most important thing when it comes to YouTube, or just like content in general, now this is not even YouTube, this could be like Instagram, this could be any platform, is this concept of satisfaction, right? And so satisfaction just refers to, has someone watched the video and fundamentally gotten what they wanted out of the video? And these platforms can actually measure it. So the way they actually measure this is essentially, we know it on a qualitative basis, but on a quantitative basis, what they do is they look at, did this person watch most of the video, right? Do they engage in the video? Do they like? Do they comment? Do they save the video? Do they share the video? They also look at post-viewing behavior. So they go, did this person go to the channel? Do they subscribe? Do they binge watch more videos, right? We'll send them some surveys. Sometimes you guys get YouTube surveys. You answer those questions. Those data points, they all syndicate together amongst other data points. This is just one of many, is what they understand as to be satisfaction. And if your videos don't hit satisfaction, nothing's going to work. And the reason why John Campbell does so well is because his videos are incredibly satisfying to watch, no matter how bad the topic selection or the packaging is. So in terms of when people ask me, like, what's the most important thing when it comes to like content, it's literally to do with satisfaction, which is ironically the one thing that most people don't actually focus on, right? They literally do not think about satisfaction. They try and do all the hacks, the tactics, and all that sort of stuff, but they forget to actually deliver the value to the person who actually came to the video and actually wanted to get an outcome from that video as well. So I won't necessarily go into too much detail because I'm just conscious of time, but you guys will get this. These are just more tactical, like how to do a hook. So it's like, I've given you guys like some actual formulas if you wanted to. You can actually fill in the gaps. Like, for example, most of your audience struggles with this problem. Today I'm going to show you this solution, that specific results, okay? So example, most service business owners waste 20 hours a week on tasks they shouldn't be doing. Today I'm showing you the exact system we use to reclaim 15 of those hours in your first week. That's your hook. So if you're someone who's clicked on a video and you're like, I want to get something out of this, this will reaffirm a lot of that, okay? So the thing we just need to remember, just to, again, hammer it home, viewers are skeptical by default, trust recession. They've probably seen similar promises like that 21-year-old guru, right? They're all tired of fluff and theory. They want proof before time investment, and they need quick wins. So you generally don't want to leave your best source till the end of the video because most people don't watch till the end. You want to make sure it's front-loaded as much as possible as well, right? Most people only watch like 20% of the video on average. So the inverse, what they should do, acknowledge the skepticism, provide immediate proof. You want to promise a specific outcome. You want to show clear differentiation, like what makes you different to someone else, and you want to signal quick value. Initially, you want people to fundamentally decide very quickly whether or not your video is worth investing in. Otherwise, what do? They bail and they watch the next guy. They watch the Andy Elliots of the world or the John Campbells. So just to bring it all together, like I said, it's like a waterfall, right? So just to use an analogy, it's like rain, right? You got to pick the right topic. If you pick the right topic, flows down to like the first catchment, which is your packaging, perfect title and thumbnail, right? Which flows down to the next waterfall, right? Which is your hooks, people clicking on the video, which then the viewers watch the rest of the videos, right? And if they're satisfied, right, you can actually add what's called a CTA, which is call to action. This is where you guys make your money. So if you're selling some sort of service, program, product, this is near the end of the video or in your description box below. You say, hey, if you're interested in learning more or you want to work with us, there's a link for you to actually learn more about what we do as well, right? Really soft, very integrated into your video, not outright selling. Selling just doesn't work on these platforms, right? And like I said, the ultimate outcome is essentially satisfaction. So that's kind of how, like, call it like the crash course of like how YouTube basically works. I've just given you guys kind of like the 5-step recipe or formula when it comes to this. I'm going to leave it for like more Q&A just so, because obviously I want to get sort of specific answers and questions out here as well. But does anyone have any questions about sort of general framework when it comes to content?
So you haven't mentioned the word subscribers once.
Yep.
And I'm assuming that's maybe intentional.
Yep.
Are you saying that matters less?
They say 2025 is the death of the subscriber or the follower.
Okay. Yep.
And the reason why is because these algorithms are based on your viewing behavior, not your subscription behavior. You might subscribe to a channel because you say I'm interested, but then let's just say, for example, you subscribe, and then YouTube goes, okay, you told me you like it, I'm going to show you a few videos, but then you don't click on those videos, you don't watch those videos. YouTube goes, you're not interested in the videos, but you haven't unsubscribed. I'll stop showing you the videos. And you'll see that what it does is it keeps refining. It's a filtering machine. It's a cheesecloth that keeps filtering until it gets to the most refined feed that you can. I've got clients who only have less than 2,000 subscribers, but yeah, videos are doing great. They're doing 20, 30,000 views for some of them, and they're doing fantastic. Yeah. Yes.
How does the person who makes the ad make money? Where do they get their money from?
It's actually a good question because it's kind of like an ecosystem, right? I might just move this over a little bit. I didn't think I'd be ending up using it, but so you've got, for example, you've got YouTube here, right? Then you've got advertisers here, and then you have creators, right? Or people who just create content. So it could be people like you guys if you are putting content out on YouTube. But it's kind of like it's actually like an ecosystem. They're all interdependent of one another. So for example, YouTube relies on the ads or the advertisers to pay YouTube. YouTube controls distribution just like a TV station. It says, I will put your ads in front of people who watch content, right? And so when it puts it in front of people who watch content, a portion of those people who see the ads, if you're good with your ads, like as in you know what you're doing with the ads, you actually make a return on investment on the ads because people actually buy what you have to sell. Right. That's the advertisers.
Creators. My question's about the creators.
So the creators, there's two types of ways to make money as a creator. The one that everyone understands, which is the entertainment creators, they get paid because YouTube shares about 50% of the amount that the ads guys pay them. They do a partnership with the creator. So the creator basically gets a split in revenue with YouTube as a part of this.
What about premium subscribers who get no advertising?
Well, that's the thing, hey, like YouTube makes all that money. Yeah. YouTube doesn't split that. Yeah, YouTube, there's always a bit of butting heads between people who create content and then the platforms themselves because YouTube wants to make as much money as it wants. So do the creators, but oftentimes those sort of values don't align, right? It sort of conflicts with one another. So YouTube Premium, for example, it's like a membership, it's like a subscription. You pay for it, YouTube pockets it, and then it doesn't have to serve ads for their videos or people who have that premium subscription.
Serve creators at all? They don't cut them in?
Nope, they don't get a cut. Yeah. They cut them out basically, right? But I think the premium users are a very small portion of the overall user base. You can definitely make a living as a creator, but going back to the point, which is like creators get a split there, but you don't want to be playing that game. You don't want to be playing the creator game where they have a metric called RPM, which is revenue per mil, which is revenue per 1,000 views. For every 1,000 views, most creators make anywhere between $5 to $7. So you wonder how many views you actually need to get in order to even earn, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000 a year, right, just to get by. It's incredibly difficult, right? And most people don't even know how to do this. Like they're just gone blind. They're just like, just learning how to do it. So the best way to make money as a creator is literally what I'm showing you guys, which is you still understand the creator model to get as many eyeballs as possible, but instead of trying to get as many views as possible and then going viral, which is not a good way of making money, is you are an expert in something and therefore YouTube will find your audience for you to matchmake. And then if it finds you the right viewers, which it will, as long as you have good quality content, a portion of those people will know, like, and trust you, and they'll buy from you. Does that make sense in terms of how it works?
So you're selling a service or a product.
Yes.
You're trying to sell a service or a product using this
As a distribution or attention tool, basically. So as an example, I don't think John's got anything to sell. He's probably making AdSense revenue, but the accountant one, just to keep things I didn't click on the right one. Let me do that again. What happens is people watch his videos. They spend 7-11-4 with him, right? And then what happens is they go, oh, I need an accountant. Here you go, book an appointment here. Click on it. What are you? And you just go through the process. I'll book in a call, book in a consultation, I'll start working with you. And so that's kind of how business owners should be playing YouTube. right? And those videos are generally like, you know, in his case, 2,500 views. I just checked the numbers this morning, got about 40 leads from that video.
In terms of viewership demographics, you've obviously made the case for YouTube for sure.
Yes.
But demographic is company executives.
Yep.
CEOs. Do they watch YouTube?
They do. Yeah, I would say, going back to the statistics I showed, YouTube probably, I would say 90% of the population use YouTube. So you'd think that, you know, C-suites, they'd be on. I've got clients who target C-suites specifically, or government, or just like T1s. They have no problems finding them. YouTube's just so good now, granularity-wise, of like finding your target audience. As long as when you do your topics, you ensure you use those words. You know, like 25 minutes of sales training for CEOs, right, instead of business owners. Then what happens is business owners won't click on it because they're not CEOs, or they might be some of them. But it's that filtering process again. The ones who click on it, YouTube goes, oh, these types of guys are interested. I'm going to go find more of those people. So the way the algorithm basically works, just as a visual, is say for example, this is your TAM. Like this is everyone possible, right, that you can target. When you put out a video and you're trying to understand, like YouTube's trying to understand like your target audience, and you're like, oh, I'm trying to go after CEOs. It might not understand it initially, so it'll sort of like share the video like all around, right? And then over time, it'll be like, oh, these pocket of people really interested because they're CEOs, because you've made sure that it's a CEO that clicks it, right? Because it's the way you package, the way that you pick your topics. And then over time, it goes and finds lookalike audiences. And it just refines and refines and refines until it knows exactly what your target audience is. So that's why they say the longer you do YouTube, the more it compounds, the better it gets at dialed in. Like I could do content like this for a new accounting client, and I won't get the same results because YouTube doesn't understand that channel and doesn't understand that target audience. So we have to sort of accelerate that process by producing more content at a faster rate. So usually what happens is in the first month, we'll try and do like 8, 10 videos, 15 maybe, because the more you train the algorithm, the better it is. One of the things you can do if you're not sure on YouTube as to like find out who your competitors are and looking for topics is you start a new YouTube channel, you start typing in words like sales training or whatever, you start subscribing, you start watching their videos, and by like 10 or 15 videos that you've watched, YouTube goes, oh, you're really into sales stuff. And then it'll start recommending your home feed with stuff, and you just keep going. And we call that basically a sleeper account. So it's kind of like a sleeper agent. You're sort of dormant, but whenever you need to go in and find like new things, like you're like, oh, I need to come up with some new topics for new videos, I'll go back into that sleeper account. I'll go look for outliers, and I'll do that exercise again to find that. So if you're targeting CEOs, just make sure your content and your packaging is for CEOs. It's like how you deliver it, how you talk about it, your titles, your thumbnails, the whole thing. The whole thing from top to bottom has to be for CEOs specifically. I think that in the education space, so like what we're talking about here, generally speaking, it's more perennial and evergreen. So we don't jump on these hype trains, and we sort of like, things don't sort of move around too quickly and change too fast as well. So I haven't seen it drastically change all that much, I guess, over the last 6 or 7 years, even though entertainment-based content has changed a lot. And they're all riding different trains and things like that as well. But like everything, there's always like, for example, when TikTok first went out, when it came out and it sort of like changed everything. Like I was saying to the guys last time, I said, do you remember when Instagram was like, when it had this thing called IGTV? Do you guys remember? Before Reels? Yeah, I do. So it was like the thing that was Reels before it was Reels. And IGTV was only in like 2018. So it was only like 5-6 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, right? So when TikTok came in, TikTok changed everything because TikTok's algorithm was same as YouTube. It was interest-based. It was not about the followers anymore. It was more about your viewing behavior, and I will just serve up content to you. And if you spend time on TikTok, it is actually dangerously good within like half an hour finding exactly content that you like as well. So then every other platform started moving towards that. So Instagram used to be popularity contest. How many followers have you got? The more followers you got, the easier it was for you to grow. And then so the top 1% takes 99% of the attention. Whereas now it's like more democratized, call it that way, where it's like you can come in with an account with 0 followers and get 50 million views the next day. I don't post much on my personal account. I had a video, which I can probably pull up, of my son. I have 1,000 followers at the time, of my son going through a dog flap, trying to get my keys because I locked myself out of the house. That video got 7 million views. I'll show you. That one got 7.2 million views. It went viral, right? again, we're not going for virality, but my point is what I'm trying to say is it's not about the follower anymore. Yeah. It is absolutely about the quality of the content. The better quality of the content you can create, the more you're going to get results. The reason why you might be an expert and not get results is because you don't know how to do that YouTube content waterfall. You don't know how to package things up. You don't know how to say things in a certain way. You have the expertise, but you're like, I don't know how to say in a way that will engage the audience.
Should content be timeless in a sense?
Ideally, yes. But outliers, when we talk about topic outliers, there's different ways to do topic outliers. There's outliers around sort of identifying just topics that work really well. But then there's also what we call another sort of way to identify winning topics is called front of mind theory. So front of mind theory just refers to like trend jacking, if you heard that term, right? So it's like COVID was trend jacking. Trump is trend jacking right now. If you do a video on Trump right now, you're probably going to get a lot of views, right? But it's not evergreen because as soon as he's not president anymore or the whole thing dies down, no interest, right? So there is stuff that's generally like less perennial and more perennial. Again, you have to contextualize that against like, who am I trying to target? Is this a topic worth talking about? Do I have the expertise to actually share about that, right? Because if you do it for the sake of doing it because you think that you're just going to get views, it's not going to do very well. It's just the audience is too good at knowing when you're trying too hard. Yes.
What does Social Wave do?
So we basically help our clients with the full end-to-end process of this. So if you're a client who is an expert, for example, in sales, we say, cool, we will help you grow your YouTube channel and we will do the research for you, we'll help your script, we'll film with you, we'll edit the videos, we'll get it distributed, we'll package it all up so that all you need to do is just turn up and be the expert. That's it, right? So that's our process. It's a done-for-you service, essentially. Yeah. But yeah, it was a good question, yeah, in terms of what you mentioned. Yeah. There's a big trend right now where everyone's going, oh, you can make a lot of money doing what they call faceless AI channels on YouTube, which is you just get AI to generate the content and then you get AI to then be the voice and then, you know, blah, 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 blah. That's a hack. Like, they'll close that loop pretty quickly. It all boils down to satisfaction. Like the North Star, the Polaris star is always satisfaction. And AI, I haven't seen it yet. I don't think AI can understand satisfaction just yet. Because you have to understand satisfaction, you have to understand your audience, what they watch, how sophisticated they are, who else that they're like consuming content of, and then create content that is different and better than that. It's like, how do you teach AI to do that? Like they can't, right? Because even for a human being, it's really hard. And we're getting inputs all the time. We're spending time with our clients and that sort of stuff. One of the things I say to my clients initially is always, when you want to get an understanding of what's the lay of the land in terms of what you're up against online, all you need to do is go into that Sleeper account, find 5 or 10 of the biggest experts that are your direct attention competitors, not your direct competitors, and just watch their content. If you watch their content long enough, you will realize what the delta is between your skill set and theirs in terms of satisfaction, right? Because you're going to watch it and you'll be like, this is really impressive. Or you're going to watch it and go, these guys are trash. I can do way better than them. It's either going to go one way or the other, right? So you have to sort of obsessively understand your audience now more than ever in order to like do well on these platforms, which I know again sounds silly because that's what you're supposed to do in business and that's how you succeed. But you know, again, doesn't seem to translate sometimes on this stuff. Yeah, but like this particular client, for example, just as another low production format, he ran this as a webinar. For 45 minutes, he ran as a webinar. He just shared his screen and just talked about like group structures. And like I said, he got 40 leads out of that. All we did was we just recorded it, we packaged it up, we added a hook, we made sure the title was good. We picked a topic that we knew was going to do well, and then we posted it, and he got 40 leads out of it. Yeah, and it's the lowest production thing, and he's got like he struggles to present. He really struggles. If you watch him, he's sort of, he's not a good presenter, and he's killing it on YouTube.
But he's an expert.
But he's an expert because the expert is all relative to what people perceive you as, right? If they're getting value out of you, then who cares? And it's funny because the comments are all about, hey, the way you pronounce things or the way you say things is not, you should improve your communication skills. But then it doesn't matter because he's getting 3,000-4,000 views and people are paying. His name is Davey Mack. He's an accountant. D-A-V-I-E.
And is that just using Loom or something?
Yeah. Oh, actually, we recorded this on Zoom. Yeah. But yeah, if he wants to pre-record it, he just does it on Loom, and then we just put it up. And a lot of the a lot of the educational and business content on YouTube right now is literally a Loom video.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. And it's killing it. Like it's absolutely doing well at the moment. Yeah. I'll send some examples afterwards, and then you guys will see how well this stuff is doing. And then it's just a matter of, again, like how big is your TAM, and then expectations around what sort of numbers you should be getting. Yeah, we've got a client who's in stock trading at the moment. As soon as we made some adjustments, and this is the thing, don't get overwhelmed with everything I just told you. If you just did like one thing, you go, oh, we just get better at topic ideation, you'll do really well. One of those, that stock trading client was doing about 1,000 or 2,000 views a video. As soon as we changed their topic strategy, tripled in the space of one video, just by picking the right topic, basically. Right. So it is just like one step at a time. It's incremental. Yeah. But it's not production quality. Production quality does not matter on YouTube anymore. Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions?
Can, following this genre of questioning,
Yes.
you've done a lot of things you need to do, should do, could do.
Yep.
What would be the top 3 things not to do?
Well, I think a lot of it is mindset, right? YouTube is one of those things where people need to understand, like it's the sort of incremental improvement game. So I'll use the example, it's like basketball. If you give a basketball to me, my shooting percentage is going to be pretty bad. Like I won't shoot that many buckets. You give it to Steph Curry or LeBron James, way higher. So YouTube is like one of those things where it's like going to the gym, right? You kind of, when you first start off, you don't know what you're doing, you're randomly using machines, you don't know how to do progressive overload and blah, 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 blah. But over time, the more you do it, you get better and better. The problem that most people do is they tap out too early. They just give up too early. It's like going to the gym for 3 months and going, why did I not have a 6-pack when you were like 30 kilos overweight? So the expectations are all wrong. I think it's just the lens of just understanding that this stuff does take time, and it's like a skill like anything as well. So that's like one of the biggest mistakes that I see. People just put this arbitrary window of like how long this should take, and all of a sudden if they don't hit that window, they're just like, no, not doing it as well, right? It is like, it's like cooking. It's like if you want to be a chef, it's not like be a chef and then that's it. It's cut, chop, dice, fry, saute, lots of different skills like combined together. But like those are the two that sort of come to mind. It's like, it's not one skill, it's a series of micro skills that you have to get right. It's not easy, right? It's good, it's easy to understand in theory, but then trying to deploy it. But again, you need to understand like a lot of the stuff is like the stuff that people think is difficult or is a barrier. It's not. Like production quality is not a barrier. It's actually just literally up here in terms of like how to approach this stuff.
What's the top budget you need to do this stuff?
I've got people who, well, if you're doing it yourself, you just need your time. That's it. Like you literally just, you have an iPhone, you have a microphone, you pump out a video a week, and you just put it up on YouTube. And like you might not even worry about packaging. You might just look at topic selection and just do that, and you'd be a John Campbell of your world, right? And that would totally like be okay, right? And then over time you're like, okay, I'll start to improve, thumbnails, designs, that sort of stuff.
So do you have a view on, like, with your clients, with your videos in terms of, let's just call them subject matter experts.
Yep.
On frequency, how often should they be posting?
The short answer is as frequent as possible, daily if I had a choice. But obviously that's not sustainable. The reason why is to the point of YouTube needing as much data as possible, because the more videos you feed it, the more you can find your target audience as well. That usually there's like kind of what I call like just a critical authority threshold. If you've done a certain number of videos, which is generally probably I call it in the 15 to 20 video range, that's when YouTube really understands your target audience and who you are and what you do. And that's usually when you see your sort of videos hockey stick, the view count hockey sticks up. But I would say for most people to be pragmatic, usually weekly.
So what's the interrelationship here with these different platforms? And what are the things that we should learn or know or explore in relation to the platforms and their interrelationship with each other as complementary or the other way around? They work against each other.
Actually, it's a good question that you raise. What a lot of people do is they take their long form YouTube and they cut it into short form content across these platforms. So for example, you might do that 45-minute masterclass on something, and then you'll find like 6, 7, 8, 10 snippets, 60 seconds, right? Take it, put it on these platforms basically. Because these platforms are all short form. They're not long form. This is the only long form platform. This is long form too, but it's in audio. But this here, it's so hard to grow. Like to teach you this stuff is like next to impossible to deploy yourself, right? This here is the only long form platform that's worth investing in. In terms of like leveraging the most of your time and effort and money, what you can do, like I said, is cut snippets out, put it across all of these platforms so you have omni-channel presence. So they are sort of like complementary to each other. because you might find that some people do spend more time on Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, right, versus YouTube as well. But again, I think being pragmatic, the reason why I'm saying YouTube is because we all have finite time and resources and budget. So where is the time best spent? It's actually on YouTube first and foremost. But if you're going to do it anyway, and maybe you have the capacity or the team who can do this, maybe for like you guys, you would cut that long form into short forms across all of these platforms as well.
What do you find if you could only pick one is the best platform to leverage to promote that on YouTube?
Instagram.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And I'll show you how I would approach it fundamentally is your production, the way you do content is you do like your YouTube long form, and then you cut that up into short form for Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, could be audio if you wanted to as well. But then what ends up happening is all the content drives them back up to here, right? And then what happens is once someone's watched it and done 7-11-4 and they've spent enough time with you, they know, like, and trust you, they're going to work with you. So then what you do is you drive them from YouTube to your website, to your landing page, to your paid program, wherever you want them to actually transact with you. Book in a call with me, whatever the call to action is. That's it. And that's as simple as it gets. Like, you don't need much else, because by the time that they've watched enough content with you, you don't really need to push them down some like tactical sort of funnel. Like, there's no need for that, because they've already built the know, like, and trust factor with you. All they want to do is jump on a call with you. They probably made up their mind 98% of the time. They go, I just want to work with you. I just want to understand how much it costs and how does it work. And that's basically what happens. Now, in a very meta kind of way, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. You just spent like 2 hours with me, 2.5 hours with me. If I spend another like 2 or 3 workshops with you, you'll probably buy from me. If I see the call to action. It's an integrated sales pitch. But that's, just an example, yeah. But we're just doing it at scale on YouTube. Yep.
Where are we at with LinkedIn? What's your view on LinkedIn? Where does all this really?
Yeah. So, you know how I said every platform now is interest-based, as meaning they look at what you like, they serve up content you like. LinkedIn is the only platform that was from the previous era, and it sounds like a long time ago, but it was only 5 years ago, where it was based on who you follow. 80% of your feed on LinkedIn is still based on who you follow. So LinkedIn is the last legacy platform that is based on followership, not based on interest-based. But from murmurs I've heard, they're about to switch to interest-based. So you will probably see in the next 6 to 12 months, LinkedIn follows suit with everyone else. And LinkedIn has always done this. I don't know if it's just because they're B2B and they're a little bit slower to everything, but they're usually like 2 or 3 years behind everyone else in terms of like where things are going. But it's good because if you know where the puck's going on these platforms, like Instagram and stuff, then you probably know what LinkedIn's going to look like in the next few years, and you can sort of get yourself ready for that as well. So it's just a different, call it, strategy when it comes to LinkedIn. It's still about building connections and followership and stuff like that as well. And people, because it's B2B, people still want to transact. The trouble with LinkedIn at the moment, though, is, and you guys, if you're all on LinkedIn, is the amount of cold messages and the cold DMs that you're getting. Like, marketers ruin everything. Yeah? So something works, and then everyone does it. And they follow the same templates, the same tactics, and by the end of it, you're like, fuck this, I'm not interested.
It's gotten so bad, but it's to the point now where you're actually missing real stuff that's coming through.
Correct.
Because you look at that, you just look, we went to a conference this morning, right? They had all the LinkedIn stuff. It's, 37 LinkedIn messages, right? Which 3 will be real. But, do you see obstacles and opportunities? It's just so much stuff.
Yeah.
And you actually just miss the real things in there now.
Correct. Yeah.
Which, if YouTube don't, I think if LinkedIn don't fix that, they're going to lose.
It's the platform's responsibility to fix that, because obviously, like, if we'll probably have Facebook accounts, most of us, it's the same problem right now. You're getting these messages from people going, oh, we're about to take down your page, or your account's going to be banned, and that sort of stuff as well. They really have a problem around, like, managing these, like, bot accounts, basically, or these these accounts like LinkedIn is. And so, yeah, and then if the platforms don't address it...
Because they're just spamming out the same stuff.
Yeah.
To me, how it should be so easy to have a simple behind-the-scenes algorithm that goes, hang on, this person's sending out multiple things, saying the same thing. Delete.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're thinking about it. I agree. I think LinkedIn's just very frustrating right now as a platform, just to sort of like, I guess, solicit and find business. Because I don't know if you guys have also heard of LinkedIn pods. And they used to be, I don't know if they're still a thing, but this was about a year ago. They used to go, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, because they knew that with the platform, as long as you liked and commented, it could amplify, because you see, oh, this person also liked and commented on this. But do you ever notice those ones who, like, they post and it's always the same 10 or 15 people who engage, and they all have these canned generic responses because they probably have a Filipino virtual assistant typing it out, who's not watching the content, and is just giving these canned responses. But they're doing this because they're going, look, just 10 of us, 15, we're just going to game the algorithm. Yeah. But what they don't realize is they're cocking it up because the algorithm now just keeps showing the content to those 10 or 15 people who are not your target audience. So they've actually just cannibalized their own reach. But they don't see it that way because they're focused on the vanity metrics of like likes and comments and things like that as well. So LinkedIn is, it's very hard to grow on LinkedIn right now, actually. Yeah, because it's just one of those weird platforms where like if you try and be a little bit divisive, which I think some people are giving it a shot, it's quite polarizing as well. You step on a lot of toes in that process, and it's the only way to grow at the moment. It's just the content again. So quality content is king, still the quality of the content. But I haven't seen anyone nail it really, really well at the moment. The only guy I know of, which I can bring up, is a guy called Justin Welsh. I'm not sure if you guys. And to be honest, even his stuff he's probably made his money in previous years when it was easier. So he has, you can see obviously Davey again. He's on every platform. 712,000 followers. And it's because the quality of his content is extremely high and extremely helpful. And a lot of them just graphics. That's what does well on LinkedIn at the moment. Just photos, graphics with captions.
Yeah, he's just tweeting and just putting it.
Yeah, he's just he's taken a screenshot and he's redone it.
What's his content?
He basically helps people build one-person $1 million businesses. So again, TAM, like as in who your target audience is, the market size has got to be decent. And then second thing is obviously he's got a shtick that he's like people are very gravitated towards. So you know they go like the biggest topics in the world are wealth, health, and happiness. Like if you're in those three categories, it's much easier to grow versus what was it called? Tap drilling?
Welding.
Welding. TIG welding, sorry. Yeah.
This presented this to me, and it opened my mind in a world I had no idea about. So I think we should all acknowledge you for the effort, the value, and the satisfaction you provided
Thank you.
today. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.